Hi friends, welcome back to Arc Tutorials. We are continuing with our Angular 9 full tutorial series, and in today's episode we are going to learn and talk about HTTP client interceptors. What are interceptors? Why do we need them? And how does Angular help us support with interceptors? Should we use it in our applications? Is it worth using it? All these questions will be answered in this episode. Welcome back, friends. My name is Sridhar. I'm your host. I bring over 10 years of experience as a full stack developer on modern web technologies. We'll talk about and learn about Angular, Node, Express, React, much more. I'm here to share my knowledge with you and also to learn from you all. So during the course of this tutorial series, if you have any doubts, any queries, any questions, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. I'll be happy to help you. I'm putting in a lot of hard work in bringing these tutorials to you. I'm sure you will appreciate and support me by subscribing to my channel and liking my videos. Thank you so much in advance. This is part of the Angular 9 full tutorial series where we have now close to 65 plus tutorials ranging from introduction to advanced. And I'm sure all these tutorials will help you master Angular 9 in detail. So make sure you check it out. The link is in the description box below. You don't want to miss out on that. All right, so this is the last part of the series on Angular HTTP. So we'll cover more topics. The next one that I'm going to start the series is on testing. But this is the last episode on this mini series on Angular HTTP. If you are joining new, make sure you have checked out all the previous tutorials to learn Angular HTTP in detail. A brief about quick note on HTTP before we learn about interceptors. HTTP client is used for performing all the HTTP requests and responses in Angular. HTTP client is available in @angular/common/HTTP. The new HTTP client service is included in the along with HTTP client module, which means you have to import the HTTP client module before you start using HTTP client. So that's the requirement. And a lot of developers will make a mistake here that they don't import the HTTP client module. So make sure you have imported it in your app module. Also, this tutorial will talk about interceptors and code and all that, but actually this is an add-on code, continuation code, which is done basically on the previous episode. So if you are new here, I request you to please check out the previous episode so you know the and have some continuity in learning. All right. So let's talk now about HTTP interceptors. So what are interceptors? And so imagine whenever your client makes a request, right, and it comes to server. That's the typical model that we work with. We have a client, we have a server. Server client makes a request, and it will get the response. But what if we want to intercept that request and process some data before sending, and then do some operations in the middle, right? And this is extremely important because you might want to do some authorization work, some encoding, some hashing. You want to do show some loading icon. There can be multiple possibilities, friends, that you want to do. So most interceptors will transform the outgoing request before passing it to the next interceptor, right? So remember, there can be multiple interceptors, right? That is multi is true. An interceptor may transform the response event stream as well as by applying additional RxJS operators on the stream written by next.handle, right? Which means there is a RxJS operators that we can put and we can put our logic basically in multiple interceptors. That's what it means, right? There can be multiple responses, but that are very rare. To be honest, I have not used in any of the applications I have personally worked. I have worked in large enterprise applications. We did not have a need to use multiple responses. I mean, we had used multiple interceptors, but not multiple responses on a single request, right? So that being said, I will just give you some technical notes so that you understand in detail more. So HTTP interceptors, this is like an example, so you can think of it this way. So let's say I have a page, right? In most cases, what happens once you log in, right? You will get some kind of a token, or let's say simple thing. I'll say client. This is UI, and I have a server, which is your API, right? So in usual model, what happens? Client will make a request, and in response, the server will give it a response, right? This is what it is, the typical model of web architecture, TCP. Now we are saying we will wrap this client request, right, inside a box, right? We'll wrap it inside a box, and this is what is called as an interceptor, right? Interceptor means every request will go through this tunnel, right? So now if you cut it here, and if you put it your logic here, you have your client here, you have your interceptor, and then you have your server here, right? So interceptor is like a middleware, right? So you make a request, it will be processed, captured by the interceptor first, and then it will send it to the server again, and it will get back the response, right? So this is how the workflow works. Client thinks it has made a request, and then it goes to interceptor, and then interceptor does the processing, and then finally we will have it for a response from the backend server, right? I'll give you an example of it if it's not clear yet. Now let's say I am saying I want to take an example of our application that we are building, right? So we have contacts, we have get contacts, we are making delete, update, etc. So let's list down that. So I have create contact, I have edit contact, I have, and then delete, and then get contacts, right? So I have these many API calls, right? That's what we learned about in the previous episodes where we do HTTP calls, right? So these are all HTTP calls. So here now this call is made, this call is made, and then this call is made, and this call is made. What I want to do is I want to log all the activity. Let's say this is a use case number one, right? Use case number one, my requirement is whenever there is a HTTP call, log all activities. Simple, right? Start with a simple thing. So whenever there is a HTTP call, log that event, log that data, and then call server. Okay. So it will do that for all incoming requests. So once you write that interceptor, it will do the same for all the requests, right? So this is use case number one. Now I'll say use case number two. What is the other use cases that we can think of? I will say whenever there is a request or whenever there is a HTTP call, show loading icon, right? Let's say this is a valid, right? So it will do again for same, right? So again it will say show loading icon, show loading icon. So you get the idea, right? So interceptor is nothing but whenever there is a request made, it will be received by the interceptor, and then it will be processed and then sent to finally to the server, right? That is the beauty of this, that we can capture the request, we can process it the way we want, and then finally send it to server, right? That being said, with some examples, let's see how to generate it. Okay, so the quickest way is to use ng generate interceptor, right? Ng generate, I'm using Angular CLI. So we have to be in the project on conversion, Angular generate interceptor, and the name of the interceptor, right? So in this case, it can be anything. You can give anything you want. I'll say logger, logging, right? You can give any name you want. I'm giving it logging. So generate it, right? So once you do ng generate interceptor, you get two files generated. One is the interceptor.ts, one is the spec.ts. Now let's go to that loading.interceptor, and you will see there is a decorator which says injectable, which means it's a kind of a service, right, that we are injecting. And then it is implementing HTTP interceptor, right? So it will always have a method which is intercept, right? It will take a request and it will take a next. Next is nothing but RxJS observable where it has to go next, right? That's what we are telling it via HTTP handle. That means go to the next interceptor or go to the next handle. We are using observable. Since it's an observable, it will be a subscribe, then we'll have to write a subscribe to process it. So first thing, here if you see, there's a console.log, which means it will log all the activity. So I'll go with the default one first, and then I'll expand it. So interceptor method, once you have generated it, the second step, so let's say, right? So first step, generate the interceptor using Angular CLI. Second step, include it in the app module. Okay, so let's go to our app module.ts, right? And like how we have provided here, we will do something like comma, I'll say provide, and what we'll say HTTP interceptors. This will always be like this. Okay, so you always have to provide HTTP interceptors and then tell it use class. What is the name of the class? It's loading interceptor, right? So it's already imported here. If you see loading interceptor. Okay, so we just created that here. Sorry, it is logging. So logging interceptor. So we just import it here and added the use class logging interceptor. That's the one that we generated here. Okay, so okay, so far so good. We have got the, we said we need to provide it via HTTP interceptors, and we have to use a class which is logging interceptor, and then we can say that there can be multiple requests to it, right? Beautiful. So now our interceptor is ready. Now you will see that in action. Okay, let me go to application. Let me open console for you to see the, right? Now see, there is no console. I cleared it. Now I'm going to click on get contact. So it said one contact is empty. Okay, let's say update contact. Okay, there is a response error. Okay, contacts not found. Okay, let's see if our code is running. Okay, yeah, it's okay. This is running. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's quickly clear this and then go. And there is no 4. That's why it's not working. So I'm going to quickly create some junk data. So we added it and it got in the end. So I'm going to add ID 4, and here I'm going to say test interceptor. Okay, so I added a ID with 4. Now see, there should be 4 here. Okay, so there is an ID which is 4, so don't worry about this. Now let's click on delete. So now we should see it should be using it in our interceptor, and it should be logging it here. Okay, it says contacts not found. Let's see what is the contact. Not 4 not found. It says URL not found. I don't think that's a good idea actually. Or let me check for a better. I think we'll update these, since it's been a while that we changed these values, so it's always good. Let's make these values change, and instead of contact ID we are passing here, let's pass contact ID. We'll pass it here 2, and we'll pass it here 5. Okay, so this is something that I'm getting a new data, so that way we don't see any errors. Okay, so now we have our um, interceptor in place. So I'm clicking on delete. So let's see that. Okay, it says options not changed. Why is it giving 404? Why is it giving 404? Unable, no API key. Okay, update, still errors. I think there is something wrong. Let me check it quickly. It's saying data is not available. But okay, let's forget all that. We don't want to get complicated. We'll keep it simple. So what I'm doing, there is a call which happened. We should see that here, but we have not seen that call. That call happened here. See, contacts. We made a call to contacts, but it did not intercept. So let me debug that for you first. So I will go to my contacts.service, and here I have my get contacts where I'm doing API call. In the app module.ts, I have my interceptors in the provider, and I'm using use class, and yeah, this should intercept, but let me close it and restart it again. You will run into issues, so don't worry. This is part of the job to debug, and the more you become good at debugging, which means you're only becoming good at coding. So all right, in the meanwhile, if you're liking the video, give a thumbs up. If you have any comments, any feedback for me, please do let me know. I'll be happy to improve upon. All right. So we have contacts, but it made a contact, but it did not log. Let's see why. In the logging interceptor, we okay, we don't have anything in the logging. That's why it didn't log. My bad. Sorry. So here I'm going to log, and I'm going to say request. Okay. So now it will log all the request, and I'm instead of logging all the request, I will say call made. Okay. All right. So you see here the message. It is logging the details of the HTTP request, right here, and then it is also logging call made. So if you want to capture some notes, you can say call made plus, you can say request dot URL. So this you don't need. So this will capture the URL. You can say request made to, right? So you can see request made to this, and you can capture different things like um, request status, right? So basically you can take the request object and do anything and everything with it. So you can get headers, you can get params, you can get the type of it and the URL, the body, the params, serialize with credentials, uh, anything and everything with the request, right? So you get the idea that whenever it is being intercepted, right? So if you want to take an example, you can change it, and let me show you that now with quickly in the get call. So here I'm passing, let's, where is it? Where is it here? Not here. Okay, in the sorry. In the get contacts, we are passing authorization token as this, right? So see, now I'm going to change this authorization in the interceptor, right? So you go to logging, right? If request dot method is equal to get, right? If it's or anything here, I mean that doesn't matter, right? The idea here is to learn, not make a perfect one. So so what you can do is we'll take request dot um, where is it, request dot headers dot get, and I'm saying get authorization, right? And take it in a const, or take it in a let, I'll say http auth equal to, so I got this value. Now I'm saying http auth is equal to http auth plus some, you want to append some key or something like that. You want to hash it, or you want to say randomize it, or you want to append some value, right? Adding value from interceptor, right? And this will be the new token that you get, right? And then what you can do is you can say http uh, request dot headers dot set You can say authorization is equal to HTTP auth. So see, in this particular request, whenever there is a request made, I will take the authorization value and I will set the new value, which is this, right? So this is usually a use case where where you have access token and you want to maybe refresh it or extend the time. You don't want user to log out in 15 minutes. So there can be multiple use cases that you can associate with it. There is no one rule that you want to set. So now let's see the request. Now let's go to our here and you see authorization is null. That's because in the code we had set that value. I'm going to remove that now here. This code I'm removing, so now it will set the value. Let's see it in the contacts headers. We should see that now. So see, it says authorization arc tutorials, right? So in the logging interceptor, let's see that request headers dot set, because we have to set this value, and I told you it's an interceptor, right? Again, this is not a really great example since we don't do it in client side, but you get the idea, right? Um, and I'll say new authorization, or say refresh token, right? So all right, so it's in contacts. So we should see timeout seconds, content type. Okay. All right. So yeah, so basically you get the idea, guys, that we have to modify it, and you can see we are adding the new value that we are getting here. So you can do a lot of processing, whatever processing your application will require you to do it. You can add it here. These are some of the examples that you can take and modify them. Give it a try. Let me know if you have any doubts, any queries. I'll be happy to help you. In the meanwhile, we will cover this again, interceptor. I know it's an important topic. I don't want to leave you in halfway, but we will do a complete CRUD operation. There again, we will use interceptor to decode and encode some of the values. So stay tuned for that. I don't want to drag this tutorial long. So I'll see you. This is what we just did. We generated the interceptor. We have included that in the providers, and then we extended some of the functionality as per logic that we wanted. All right, so that's starting next. I'm going to start a series on Angular testing where I will teach about how to test your apps in Angular, what are the CLI tools we have, etc. I hope you're liking the videos. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying bringing it to you. Please keep motivating and encouraging me. See you in the next series where we cover about Angular testing. Thank you so much for joining, guys. I appreciate and I really feel encouraged with all your love and support. Thank you so much.